Claire found out on a Tuesday, not because anyone told her, because her phone buzzed twice while she was eating lunch at her desk, and she glanced down expecting nothing, and saw instead two transaction alerts from her bank. One for $3,200, one for $1,475. She set her fork down. She opened the app. The charges were itemized clearly: Coastal Premier Charters Group Booking Deposit. Then below it, Harborview Dining, Party of 12. Event Reserve. She scrolled further. A spa package, a private transfer service, a hotel block listed under a name she recognized, the resort town her family had mentioned twice in passing over the past year, always in the context of someday and when things ease up. Things had, apparently, eased up, for 11 of them. She sat with it for a long time, not out of indecision. More the way you sit after something confirms a suspicion you've been quietly carrying for years and didn't want to name. There's a specific kind of stillness that comes with that. Not shock, not even anger exactly. Something more like the feeling of a room coming into focus. The shared travel wallet had been her mother's idea 3 years ago. A joint account linked to multiple family members used for group trip planning, deposits, bookings, shared expenses. Claire had been added with enthusiasm. You're part of this family, of course you're in. Her backup card was attached as an overdraft option. She hadn't thought about it in months. She thought about it now. The family vacation had been officially canceled in March. Her father had sent a message to the group chat. Practical, brief, the tone he used when a decision was already made. Going to hold off on the summer trip. Lot going on financially. Let's revisit in the fall. Claire had responded with a thumbs up. She hadn't pushed back, hadn't asked questions. She'd quietly rearranged her own summer, turned down an invitation from a friend because she'd assumed she might be needed, kept her schedule loose out of some old reflex toward availability. The charges on her card were dated June 14th through June 21st. It was currently June 17th. They were there right now. She didn't call her mother. She didn't text her father. She opened her banking app and began the dispute process, methodical, unhurried, the way she approached most things when the alternative was reacting without thinking. The charges were unauthorized. That was the accurate word for it. She had not agreed to them. She had not been informed of them. Her card had been used as a backstop for an event she wasn't told about, wasn't invited to, and had been actively misled about. She flagged each transaction individually. Then she navigated to the shared wallet settings and froze outgoing access. Not closed, froze. The funds already in the wallet remained. But nothing new could be drawn from her account, and nothing could be processed through the shared portal without her reauthorization. She did not send a message to the group chat. She went back to her lunch, which was cold now. She learned about the port situation not from her family, but from her sister Rachel's text, which arrived 2 days later at 11:42 in the morning and consisted mostly of capital letters. What did you do? Claire. What did you do to the wallet? We are standing at the dock and the card isn't working. They want let you is poured. What is happening? Claire read it. Read it again. She thought about what to say for about 90 seconds. She typed, corrected a billing error. She set her phone face down on the counter and made coffee. The calls came in sequence. Rachel first, twice, then voicemail. Her mother, who didn't leave a voicemail but texted instead. A long message, the kind that's clearly been edited and re-edited before sending. That began with, "I can explain how this happened," and moved through several distinct emotional registers before arriving at you are putting a lot of people in a very difficult position right now. Her father called once. She watched his name on the screen until it stopped. She was not ready to perform composure for him yet. That was the honest reason, not cruelty. She knew that if she answered she would be required to manage his reaction, and she didn't have it in her right now. The energy to absorb his anger while also being the one who'd been wronged. She'd done that particular thing many times. She needed one day where she didn't. She called her bank instead, spoke to a representative, and confirmed the dispute status. The charges were under review. The freeze on the shared wallet was active. If anyone attempted to contest the dispute, she would be contacted directly. The representative was professional and thorough. Claire thanked her. It was the most straightforward conversation she'd had in days. What happened the next morning was something she heard about in fragments, from Rachel, eventually, once Rachel's register dropped from fury to something more complicated. Their father had called the bank. He'd expected, she imagined, the outcome he usually got when he applied pressure to things: movement, accommodation, an institution bending slightly in the direction of a confident and frustrated man. He was good at that particular maneuver. He practiced it for decades. Contractors, insurance adjusters, customer service escalations. He knew how to make himself the reasonable authority in a room. The bank representative had explained the dispute process to him. In order to reverse the flagged charges, the cardholder, Claire, would need to confirm authorization. Or, alternatively, documentation showing she had agreed to the charges could be submitted for review. He had neither. What he had instead was a polite and unhurried voice explaining that the charges had been flagged because the cardholder had specifically reported she was not a participant in the trip, that this put the transactions in a different category, that this was not a process he could expedite or override. Rachel described the call in a voice that was trying very hard to be neutral and not entirely succeeding. He didn't say anything for like a full minute, she said. It was weird. Claire did not say anything either. She understood the silence. It was the silence of a man encountering a limit he couldn't talk past. It was unfamiliar to him. She almost felt something about it, not sympathy exactly, but a kind of recognition. She knew what it felt like to hit a wall and find it solid. She'd hit it in the other direction her whole life. The trip continued, shortened and restructured. She gathered this from ambient information rather than direct communication. A photo Rachel posted, a brief mention from her aunt. Some of the charges were handled through other accounts, other arrangements. The yacht booking was apparently salvaged. The spa packages were non-refundable. Claire did not track the details closely. It wasn't her problem to solve. For 4 days her parents didn't contact her. She used the time the way she usually used time when the family system paused its demands on her. She worked, she slept, without setting an alarm on Saturday. She called a friend she'd been meaning to call for 2 months. She felt, without quite being able to justify the feeling logically, slightly lighter. Her mother called on day 5. Claire answered. Her mother did not apologize. She had expected this, so she wasn't disappointed by it. Disappointment requires a prior belief that things might go differently. What her mother did instead was explain the trip had come together quickly. They hadn't wanted Claire to feel obligated to come. They knew she'd been busy. They thought she'd understand. The account linkage had been a mistake. It wasn't intentional. These things happen in families. Surely Claire understood that. Surely she could see it wasn't malicious. Claire listened. She said, "I understand," because she did. That was the thing. She understood exactly what it was. She did not say everything she understood. When the call ended, she sat for a moment with the specific exhaustion of being the one who stays quiet in order to keep something fragile from breaking. And then the different, newer feeling of realizing she wasn't sure she wanted to keep it intact anymore. Not dramatically, not with any plan, just the quiet shift of a person who has held something carefully for a long time and is beginning to consider setting it down. The shared wallet. She navigated back to it 2 days after the call. She had unfrozen it temporarily during the dispute resolution. The bank had confirmed the billing error. 2 of the 3 charges had been reversed. The 3rd was still under review. She had done what needed doing. Now she opened the settings again. Didn't freeze it this time. Renewed her card entirely. No message, no explanation attached. If the account flagged her departure and sent a notification to other members, that was the system doing what systems do. She wasn't responsible for managing the receipt of information. She was simply making accurate. She closed the app, made tea, stood at her kitchen window and watched the street below. A neighbor was walking a large, uncooperative dog. A delivery truck idled at the corner. The afternoon light was the particular kind of gold that only happens in early summer, when the days are longest and everything is lit from a low angle that makes ordinary things look briefly significant. She watched it without trying to make it mean anything. That felt right, actually, to just watch it, to not reach for the meaning of it, not shape it into something to carry forward. Some things just happen in the light. She didn't hear from her father for 11 days. When he finally texted, it was short. Call me when you have time. Not an apology, not an opening. Just a door, slightly ajar, waiting to see if she'd walk through it on his terms, the way she always had. She read it, set her phone down, thought, I'll call him, eventually, when I'm ready, not when summoned. This was new, not dramatic, not triumphant. It didn't feel like winning anything. It felt, more precisely, like being accurate, like finally answering a question that had been posed to her for years. Who do you become when the cost of accommodation becomes too high? And discovering the answer was quieter than she'd expected, less like a declaration and more like a door she'd simply stopped holding open. The dog down the street had given up fighting the leash. It was trotting now, resigned and rhythmic beside its owner. Claire finished her tea, got back to work.